And I realize I leave this client A session fully energized. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And then I leave client B and I'm drained because there's all this resistance we're working through. And so I asked him this question. I was like, how do you reconcile that? Like, this one client is taking so much more energy and this other one is giving so much to me. And he says, I charge the amount to each client that will get me excited, like jumping up and down to get out of bed and do the session with that person. And that number is not the same for every person.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Chris Marhefka, a transformational coach, men's work leader, and entrepreneur dedicated to helping people unlock their fullest potential in life and business. Over the past 16 plus years, Chris has founded and grown 4 companies in the health, wellness, and personal development space, while personally guiding more than 2,500 clients through powerful breakthroughs. As co-founder of 13 Pines, he is pioneering a worldwide men's work movement that redefines conscious masculine leadership for the next generation. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Rexhen. Excited to be here.
Thank you for coming, Chris. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to your beginnings as a coach and focusing on the coaching side, what inspired you to become a coach and start this coaching business?
Yeah, thank you. What I started with coaching is definitely not what I'm coaching today, but I started coaching fitness actually. And it honestly just came from an incredible passion that I found for myself. I got really into physical training in college and dove headfirst into the science and anatomy and physiology and like all of it. And I was so passionate about it. At the time, I was working a finance job actually out of college. And I was so miserable over here. Like the best part of my day was when I was training and I was training with friends and helping them out. And, you know, a few months into that finance job, I realized it was eating my soul. And so with no real plan, I quit that job and I soon after started what became a gym that I owned for 10 years. It started just very humble beginnings. And I started training people out of my garage and out on a field running group classes. And I remember the feeling that I got from clients getting results and leaving workouts like as the best part of their day and the joy that they felt. It was occurring in me as well. It was like I was getting so much fulfillment from helping others. And so that path to helping others in wellness and fitness continued for about 10 years was my career in primarily fitness and wellness. And I was coaching hundreds and thousands of people. I had a gym. We were running personal training and group classes. And along the way, I discovered it wasn't all just about the body. So my knowledge started deepening. So I started getting more into mental performance and what are the mental blocks that would hold people back. And I started working with some higher level athletes. And then that took me even further. I started working with entrepreneurs because the same mental blocks that were occurring for them were also occurring for business owners and entrepreneurs. And so I started going into that. And then after I had my own complete burnout moment, I actually had a stress-induced brain injury in 2016. And it led me to just stop everything and really question what I was doing. I was going 100 miles an hour. I was working 80 plus hours a week, 7 days a week. And I was beyond stressed. And so while I was offering all this support for others, I realized I didn't have a ton of support for myself. So this is kind of like a few year period where I took a step back from all the service that I was giving to others. And I really dove deep into my own work. And so I got into some emotional healing work and some much deeper subconscious programming stuff. And then I kind of reemerged from a few year process and stepped back into coaching. And at that time, I was doing transformational work and running transformational retreats and running a company supporting people in that. And, the same exact thing occurs for me today that was occurring for me 16 years ago, back when I was personal training, is seeing people have breakthroughs in real time and then follow through and really change their life for the better. Like it lights me up, and it's the absolute reason why I get out of bed and why I do what I do is because I know it works, and I know firsthand what's possible in my life. And I see it over and over again for the clients that I work with. So ultimately, just incredibly passionate about being in service to people, and also have been a lifelong learner. One of my early mentors, he told me that if I were to read 4 personal development or self-help nonfiction books in 1 year, I'd be in the top 1% of readers in the world. And I was like, oh, wow, that seems pretty easy. So I did that. And then the next year I read 1 a week. The next year I read 1 a month. Then the next year 1 a week. And the next year I read 100 nonfiction self-development books in a year. So a total of about 168 over a 4-year period. So lifelong learner, like I dive deep into any topic that I'm passionate about. And I just love consolidating and sharing that wisdom with people and seeing it click for them.
Cool. And if we were to define the ideal client profile for you, if they're listening as well, we mentioned that we're working with men. How would we describe it deeper? Is there some certain common goals or other commonalities you're seeing? Are they on a certain industry or demographic or psychographic?
Yeah, great question. The profile of my client today is exactly who I was when that brain injury happened, honestly. And most of them are entrepreneurs or working for themselves in some way. Almost all of them are earning somewhere in the ballpark of 7 figures, or around $1 million or just under $1 million. And they have given their entire lives, their time, their energy, and oftentimes their health, and sometimes their soul, to creating something and building something, and oftentimes losing themselves in the process. And so most of these people have some level of material success, but they feel empty inside. They're disconnected from the reason why they did what they did. And oftentimes they're, for lack of a better word, a slave to what they've created. They've created this cage for themselves that they feel like they can't break out of. And so I work with them both on the mental, emotional side, physical side, and then also just on the tangible actions on how to structure their business and their life in a way that serves them and not the other way around.
And how is it like to work with you? So for them listening, is there a certain program of a certain length?
Mm-hmm.
Is it one-on-one coaching, group coaching? How is it like? How is the engagement like?
Yeah. So I'll describe two different tracks, if you will, because I have a personal coaching business, and that's the ideal client that I just described. And for that person, usually what I do is they come to me, they may have participated in like one of my challenges or something. Like I oftentimes will run a challenge around freeing themselves, usually in their time, because that's one of the first problems that most people have is they have no time to even commit to working with me, or no time for anything in their life. And so the promise that I make is within 6 weeks, they'll free up 5 hours per week guaranteed of their time. And so I just teach them a series of both mindset and then also practical tools to help free that time up. And then once that happens, they're either going into a group coaching container with me or a one-on-one container with me. And that's primarily my personal coaching business. On the other side, I run this men's work movement, 13 Pines, something started almost 3 years ago now. And so in that company, we run retreats in person. We run online programs as little as 8 weeks all the way up to 8 months. And basically just something for every man that wants to get involved, we have.
Do you find that there is a connection between the two companies? Oftentimes you have people going back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, today, a lot of my one-on-one clients come through the men's work company because a lot of times that ideal customer is coming through this work as well. So In the men's work, we do touch on some of similar things that I work on in one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And we also touch on just relationship dynamics and parenting and all sorts of different stuff. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And when we think about the clients that you're working with, where are you, if you could say one of the main challenges that you're most commonly seeing in men, is there a specific challenge that most commonly comes up? You did mention freeing up their time, which is where
Mm-hmm.
it gets started, but is that the main one?
The deeper problem for these men that usually come to me is there's one or both of these things are occurring, is that they have overcommitted, and I shouldn't say overcommitted, but they've committed so much to this one area of their life in building their vision. And what has been left by the wayside or been a consequence of that is either their health or their relationships are not where they want them to be, usually destroyed. A lot of guys come to me on the verge of broken relationships, separations, almost ready to divorce, or after these things have happened, and they realize that they're missing a huge part of their life. And then the other one is their health. Similar to me, I mean, I was only 30 years old when this health issue happened to me, but I have guys from their 30s through their late 50s and early 60s that are top of their career, like they're peaking in that sense, but they're having loads of health issues, and it's forcing them to slow down or scaring them to
Mm-hmm.
thinking that they may not make it to quote unquote retirement age. So those are the two things primarily that are kind of like underlying the surface that create a lot of urgency and pain, enough pain for men to jump into something that's uncomfortable, like doing this coaching work.
Yeah, cool, great. And I also want to learn a question that is going to be mostly interesting for other coaches as well is when it comes to you finding your clients, you did mention that some of them also primarily, when it comes to your one-on-one, primarily come from the other company, the movement. So marketing wise, and we can go back to the root of it,
Mm-hmm.
what marketing channel works really well for you?
Yeah, there's definitely the 13 Pines, because in that way, men spend a lot of time with me. Like when I'm on a retreat with them in person, it's a small group of maybe 30 guys, and we're spending all day for multiple days together. And so they really get to know me and trust me and like me and see that there's some value there. And the second one is actually podcasts. So I do a lot of podcasts as a guest, and part of that is just so people can get to know me, get to like me, get to trust me. And then oftentimes I'll give a lot of value, like
Mm-hmm.
whether or not someone does a free challenge with me or they do a low cost thing, I'll continue to follow up with them. I've supported people for voice notes and whatnot after we do a discovery call, even if they don't sign up. And then I have clients that sign up a year later, 2 years later, because I'm showing them that like I actually care. Not only do I care, but I can actually prove that I can help them with their challenges. And so, of course, I have some boundaries with that because I put a lot of time into my clients and my family and my life, but I still do it when I can and just support people for free. And
Mm-hmm.
that actually goes a long way. And a story just the other day, the person that I was supporting did not sign up, but just recently I had a new client sign up because of a friend referred them, and I was just helping the friend, and they would reach out to me. It was only like 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't in a financial position to be able to hire me, but they told someone else about me, and that person ended up hiring me like on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even really want a discovery call. They were just like, yeah, this guy, I trust him. He says good things about you. And so honestly, just doing right by people goes a long way. I think integrity and authenticity really shows on these like longer form things and as people get to know me. And so I much prefer that type of marketing, if you will.
Yeah, well, being authentic, it just creates that trust a lot
Mm-hmm.
faster than being generic and not really appealing to anyone. So there's a mixture of 13
Mm-hmm.
Pines. Some people come from that. There's the podcast. There's the referral network of people
Mm-hmm.
you've worked with. When we think about 13 Pines, what about that? Where do the people go to that?
Yeah, that one is from like a business standpoint. It's much more of a traditional marketing funnel.
Mm-hmm.
We run ads to some free or low cost offerings. We give a lot of value. We give a lot of lead magnets out, recorded videos and practices, things that people can do at home. And then we have like a really low cost offering. They can join a monthly service for like $33 a month. They get to experience us and yeah, get on live calls with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we have kind of like our entry level core program. It's a fairly low cost thing. It's a 9-week program, and it runs around $700.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we're funneling everyone to that. That's like our level 1 entry point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, and we do a ton of email nurturing, and we do some social media work. I think we put out great content, like great looking and great quality content. And we just honestly, we take a lot of the stuff that we're doing inside of our programs and at our retreat, and we just show little clips of it to the public,
Mm-hmm.
and that resonates with people that want to be there. So
That makes a lot of sense. And when thinking about the future for the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business, or maybe thinking about the 13 Pines as well, since they're connected, do you have any specific business goals that you're working towards of?
yeah, great question. So one of the primary goals actually for 13 Pines is we're working towards a physical retreat location where we can host a number of different in-person events and rites of passage. One of the things we have kind of a nonprofit foundation that goes along with that. And I'm saying we because I have 2 other partners in this. And the tagline of our business is really shaping the conscious masculine leaders of the next generation. And so we are working with a lot of younger men, especially. And there's something really powerful about young men that don't have male role models. Either they don't have a father that's close to them, or they don't have good examples of what it means to be a good man in their life. And we are able to bring them in for an in-person experience, and they get to feel and experience something different, a man with depth, a man with integrity. And what we're seeing is that's incredibly lasting. It's like they were boys before and then they leave after men. So what we're trying to do in a way is recreate these initiations for young men so that they can be like productive in society. They can be loving, they can be generous, they can be leaders, and they're not just consuming the life force of the earth. And so we really believe in that mission. We're going to be moving towards that in the next year to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a really big one for both me personally and for the company as well.
So mostly having that physical retreat location. Right now, you're just basically going to different locations
Mm-hmm.
and doing retreat events.
Yeah, and part of that actually, part of it, there's a like efficiency reason
Mm-hmm.
for that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just having it all
absolutely.
set up and the way we do it.
Yeah.
But it's actually something deeper than that. One of the things we'll be doing, we're really big on creating a community of men. And as a part of that community, we're going to be inviting men onto the land to actually cultivate and improve and work with their hands, even men that wouldn't normally do this in their day-to-day life, and teach them some skills. So there's kind of like this secret mission. When they come there, they're actually going to be doing things that maybe they never learned. There's so many men in our world today that didn't learn a lot of basic skills working with their hands. And so that's going to be a huge part of it as well. And our vision is to grow it together, like to grow it as a community. We know that this is far beyond just the 3 of us as founders. And for all of us, we hope that this is our legacy that we leave.
Cool. I really like the mission. And it's definitely, I feel like, a marketplace that is not getting as much attention as it needs. Somehow, in a way, I feel like the world has shifted a little bit, making it a little bit harder, but we don't want to touch on that topic. Yeah, something's changed definitely from if you think about the men on the 90s and where we are at today. And when we think about your coaching business and 13 Pines, what have been some investments and you're thinking about investment in the future as well, but right now investments that you've done already, what are some investments that you've done that were good investments that either you learned a lot or got a good return from? And what have been some investments that you would have preferred to have avoided? If there's, I feel like there's a lot of them.
Yeah, plenty. Yeah. Yeah. 16 years as an entrepreneur, you stack up those lessons of learning. Let's see, I'll start with good investments. And I'll speak to the two current businesses that I run now, but also every one that I've run in the past. And the two best investments that I've made are in my own development and education. So when I up level in something in my life, that trickles down to everything in the business. So either I'm clear in the mission, or I'm speaking it in a better way, or I have more energy. Like even that can be huge to trickle down. So number one is my own development. Then number two is people. So I've always learning the hard way. I've learned how to hire correctly with the right people that believe in what you do. Even if it's just someone who's an assistant and they're doing back end work and they're never seen, like they still have to really believe in what we're doing and be the right fit. And that's something that now today we definitely have that. Some of the lessons that I learned and maybe didn't pay off monetarily, but they did pay off in education and wisdom is throwing money at something that isn't working, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. And so that's kind of a general way to say that I invested in things that were broken or weren't functioning well enough, and it just made the problem bigger. And so I've done this with people. So I've thrown more money at people that weren't a good fit in the hopes that that would solve a problem. I've thrown that at marketing. So putting paid advertisements into, for instance, like funnels or offers that aren't doing well organically. Mm-hmm. And so then just lose a lot of money and don't convert. And and then to like a lesser extent, like systems and technology. I have a principle of like keeping it simple. And in today's day and age with technology, it's easy to get a software. You can have a dozen softwares like in a very small business. And it can add a lot of challenges and problems, and a lot of things can break. And so I've definitely thrown money at like a pretty shiny solution when I probably would have been better served with keeping it simple and just improving with a system that's working.
Yeah, and it's interesting how software is like a commodity right now. You can just pick so many other options, and a lot of people are also obsessed with automating a lot of the stuff that they're doing. Now, automation is cool, right? If it could save you some hours, that's great, but it doesn't have to get too complicated either. So right now, when thinking about your goals right now with building that physical retreat location, finding it or even building it, and your coaching business on the other side in 13 Pines, what is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next in the coaching business that you're facing short term? Where do you see the bottleneck right now?
Yeah, with 13 Pines, it's definitely the bottleneck is with the three of us as the founders and teachers and facilitators and coaches of everything. And we are still at a point where we're managing the capacity that we have, but it's quickly growing and will soon outpace our individual ability to deliver. And that challenge we're working on solving proactively, because unlike hiring for a task-oriented business, there's a lot of nuance to what we do, and there's a skill development, and there's definitely has to be a right fit. And there's a lot of training that's involved in doing the type of transformational work that we do that people have to experience. They can't just read about it in a book. And so that the amount of time that is required to train someone on that, to get them to the place to where they can fill some of our roles in delivery, is definitely the thing that we will be dealing with in the next 1 to 3 years. And how we're solving that is we're actually doing programs where we're training people to do exactly what we do. We give them our system. We give them basically our framework for how we teach and do things. And then we're taking them through it. And then they're taking each other through it. And so we have a pretty robust training program that we're taking people through. And we do, though, again, because it has to be a really good fit. We do have a kind of like a few hoops that people have to jump through intentionally to make sure that they really want to do this. And so there's a little time delay. It's like, okay, you got to do step 1 first. That'll take 8 weeks. And then you got to step 2, and this is 4 months. And then step 3 is 8 months. And so we're already looking at over a year there. So that would be that problem. In my personal coaching business continues to be, which is funny, this is what I coach people in, but it continues to be finding the perfect balance between the energy that I put into that and the energy that I put into 13 Pines, and then combined with my life. I have a brand new daughter. She's a year and 9 months now. We're planning on having more and more kids. And so we're kind of in the season to where both I'm the provider and also I have made a commitment to myself to be a present father. It's literally what I teach, so I better be doing it. And so for me in my personal coaching business, I would always love to take more clients, but I max myself out at 8 clients on a year basis because, that's just what I found my current capacity is.
And we talk about 13 Pines as well. Is your own personal coaching business, the one-on-one, is that something you're trying to scale more while maintaining the time that you're putting in, like not actually adding more hours, but scaling in a way that is efficient? Or do you want to keep it where it is and just stay there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I even answered when I got asked that question earlier. I would like to grow it. I would like to grow it in an efficient way. Yeah. I think that's my answer. I'd like to grow it a little bit and at the current capacity that I have to deliver. Because the other thing I'm really committed to is the quality and energy that I put towards the clients. And so there are some things that I'm doing, like introducing a group program that I'm doing a beta test right now to see if I can get the same results with a few people together as one-on-one. And so that would be a very easy way where I could serve more people, increase my income on my personal coaching business. And so I'm testing that. And the old me would say grow forever and scale to the moon. And me today, I have commitments in my life and I'm more honest with myself about what my capacity is.
Yes, it seems like with both the 13 Pines and with your personal coaching business, it seems like the focus or the challenge is mostly on operations, optimizing the operations, streamlining them, and the capacity of all the founders, and in your own personal one, your capacity as well, maintaining that capacity, not overloading yourself. Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And I would,
and hiring too.
Yeah, and hiring too. And there definitely is a marketing component to it as well. This is something I've struggled with for many years, and really narrowing in on primarily the ROI that people get out of doing this work. Because it was so much easier when I was coaching primarily business or sales, and you could just draw a line and be like, okay, this is how much you invest and this is how much you're going to get back. It's 5X. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. But oftentimes on this work that's a little bit more self-oriented, some of the results can be subjective. Now, the way I coach is I always want to also get objective results, but it's always kind of this blend. And sometimes it's hard to really describe that to someone. And so there is a bit of a marketing challenge as well in my personal coaching. And then also in the 13 Pines as well. Men are much more resistant to change and to look inside at their things that might be not up to par, I'll put it that way. Yeah. They're much more resistant to go into that. And so we're always gently marketing through that resistance that a lot of men have.
Yeah, I feel like as men, we're designed to figger it out ourselves.
Yep.
It's hard to accept.
That's in a lot of our marketing. Yeah, for sure. But when I look back, every major, it's so true, first of all. And that's what literally every man that comes through our work and that I talk to says. It's this lone wolf programming that's into us. And a part of it is good. I love the fact that I can figure things out. And then when I look back in my life at not just the like the incremental improvements in my life, but the exponential ones, I always had someone in my corner that was a few years ahead of me. It was a mentor, it was a coach, it was a program, or a partner. And so there is something to be said about leveraging other people's knowledge and experience. And that goes in business, that goes in our personal life. And I've seen that for myself. And it's like, yeah, you probably will figure it out. This is honestly what I say a lot in like our calls, like you will figure it out. And if it takes you 5 years to figure it out instead of a year, is it worth it?
Yeah.
If it takes you 10 years instead of a year, is it worth it? And so it's trying to find that sweet spot, because that's one of the things that happens oftentimes, which is why I have a good follow-up process, because a lot of, especially on the one-on-one side, guys will do something else, or they'll do like a cheaper option, or they'll try to figure it out on their own. And I have so many people. I have a really long average sales cycle, because guys will come back 2 years later, literally, and they'll just kind of stay, and they'll be on my email list, and they'll follow along on social. And then they'll just reach out one day and I'm ready. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense that is slow and it's a long journey. And when you think about it, like if you're waiting 5 years, you're still paying. You're just paying with a resource that you're never going to get back. Time is invaluable. You're never going to be this young again. How many times do we say, I wish I had this knowledge when I was 5 years younger? Like even like we're always improving, but like, yeah, you're paying with time. So if you could shorten that, it's definitely going to make a big impact on your life. So for all coaches out there that are trying to scale their impact, and in a way, you're also trying to do the same, because you're impacting the life of a man. If these men are leaders, these men have their own companies. So kind of like it has a ripple effect to their families, to their teams. For all the coaches out there, is there any advice you'd like to give to these coaches who are trying to scale their impact? And it could be an advice you actually give to yourself, since
be so much more generous with value and service. Be so much more than I even think. I'm giving this advice to myself, is just give. I have this belief, and I've seen it really show in my life, prove in my life. And I imagine it will help other coaches as well. This, I call it reciprocity. It's not my word, but the reciprocity of the universe, this giving and receiving, doesn't always happen in a linear way. So, for instance, I've mentored a lot of people for free. I've worked for free. I've done a ton of stuff for free. I couldn't even count how many hours I've given to people in support and service. And so in that direct experience, it seems like the scales are tipped to where I'm over giving and someone else is over receiving. But on another area of my life, like with my one-on-one clients or my businesses, if I allow it to, people show up to offer me more money than I think to do the work that I would do and I do for free. So there's like this part of it is, and I was working this with a client just yesterday, is learning how to remove this like upper limit ceiling that we put on ourselves as coaches. And so I always have, and this is what I was working with this one client as well on, is always have this wild offer that you expect like 99 out of 100 people to say no to. This wild offer that's like your all-in offer. And oftentimes it's like 5 or 10x what your core offer is. And just simply by having it and sometimes presenting it when it's a right fit, someone will take it. And that's a direct opportunity for you to receive in a greater amount than what you may think you're serving in that one-to-one relationship. And so a lot of coaches go broke limiting themselves by keeping their own value down for everyone. So it is important to give for free. Don't get me wrong. A lot of my stuff is giving for free, and my energy, and also low cost stuff. And that's why it's actually good. It's also good to really have systems. Just because someone takes part in your free material, if they have no way to pay you, even if they want to, or not an easy way to pay you, you're missing out on that person who just wants to give you money. And this is a really big thing with a lot of new coaches is they're putting so much energy and emphasis into creating content, like amazing content, really helping in that way. But when it comes time for them to clients to reciprocate and say like, okay, now how can I pay you? It's a really challenging process. And so take the lid off, take the ceiling off, and let the reciprocity come back to you so that you're not in resent. That's a big thing with if you're broke and you're not making money and you're giving and giving and giving and you're putting all this effort out and there's no reciprocity back, then you're going to get burnt out. You're going to be resentful, and that's going to carry over into the work you do. So if you really want to love what you do and also be fulfilled and happy with it, there has to be whatever your number is back to you so that you feel good about the work that you're doing. One of my friends, he's $1 million coach. He's way further down the road. He's about 10 years further down the road than me. He said to me one day, and because I was asking him this question about like this one client, they're the perfect client. They do everything I ask and like they're getting amazing results. And then this other client, there's just resistance. And I knew it on the first call, and there's resistance. And they say, yep, do the action, and then they don't do the thing. And then they don't do the thing. And it's just constant like pulling and pulling and pulling. And I realize I leave this client A session fully energized. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And then I leave client B and I'm drained because there's all this resistance we're working through. And so I asked him this question. I was like, how do you reconcile that? Like this one client is taking so much more energy and this other one is giving so much to me. And he says, I charge the amount to each client that will get me excited, like jumping up and down to get out of bed and do the session with that person. And that number is not the same for every person. And so you have to really listen to your intuition, and you have to have a really good vetting process, especially one-on-one, that there are some people that may require more attention, more energy. And if you want to feel good about that, then that may mean you charge them more. And that like opened up my eyes so much. And I've done that since. Like I've really done that. And it's worked because I've gone into it with the expectation, like, okay, this client, I can feel some resistance here and I may be wrong, but I get the sense this is going to take more energy. And usually I'm spot on. And when I do charge a little bit more for that container, it feels good for me that I'm supporting them and I'm getting, again, reciprocity back for that time and that energy.
Yeah, and there's no resentment. And also, I feel like for the clients who have that higher offer that you mentioned, the results you can get for them are also much bigger because they have skin in the game. So it's not something that they actually are going to give you that undivided attention because they're invested. So, yeah.
You're absolutely right. And you alluded to this earlier. It's actually one of my requirements for working with people one-on-one is they have to have the ability to have a much greater impact than just the one-to-one of me to the client. And all my clients do. They have a business. They have a whole ecosystem that is supported by them. And it's a requirement because they understand that. And the ones that take that top offer, they understand that this isn't just about me. This is about the dozens or hundreds of people that are going to benefit when I do this work. And that ROI is massive. And the people that do invest that type of money, they know that. And that's why they do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up Chris Marhefka. They'll be able to find your profile there. And is there also chrismarhefka.com, which is the website, right?
Yeah, correct.
We'll put that in the description too. Is there anywhere else you'd like to send people to?
Those are probably the two best places. Also, if the men are listening and they want to get into the 13 Pines work, it's just 13 Pines all spelled out.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, Chris. It was lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you, Rexhen.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.